All right. Well, good afternoon. Hope everyone's doing all right. Good evening, wherever you're watching, whatever time it is. I hope you're doing all right. Hope you're having a great week. Welcome back to Workout Wednesday Live. So excited for this week. Lorna's got a great challenge for us this week, so we will go ahead and start taking a look at this. So a classic example. So if you've been following the last several weeks, we've been doing a series of challenges where we've been building upon each other, right? And each challenge continues to add more context, more detail, more interactivity, that kind of thing. So this week, Lorna decided to do something that probably, if you've been developing in Tableau for very long, you've almost certainly come across, which is you walk in to show off your final dashboard, and of course the stakeholder says, "Well, how about this? Can you just do this?" And of course that they always make it seem like, well, can you make it just this easy? Sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's hard, but so that's what we're going to be working on. Lorna has thrown a wrench into all this, which means we have to go in and we have to be able to select different measures for our entire dashboard. So we built everything the last 3 weeks. We've been building everything off of profit ratio and sales, but now our stakeholder comes to us and says, well, it'd be really cool if you could just add in the ability to change the measures. It sure would. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to build in this interface. We're going to be able to do this different selection and see how far we can get. So with that, let's go ahead and roll over to Tableau. Here's my dashboard to date, which has got everything in it. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with a dashboard, just a new worksheet, simple blank worksheet. I'm going to, for the sake of this, make sure that I remove my extract just for now so that I don't have anything. Just remove it and I'll create it later. There we go. All right. So I've got all my fields that I need. All right. I know that I'm going to now need, what are we doing here? We've got sales, profit ratio, and quantities. Sales, profit ratio, and quantity. So I need to unhide my quantity here. I'll go ahead and do that. There we go. Whoop. Here we go. Unhide. There we go. Perfect. Okay. So basically what this means, this is going to be a good lesson in parameter actions and being able to allow the user to select different measures. So first thing we need to do is we need to set up some parameters. So what I'm going to do is create not a calculated field. not a calculated field, a parameter. And the parameter is going to be select a measure. And I'm going to call this, this is going to be for the rows. And so I'm just going to make sure that I know what I'm talking about. So I'm just going to put select a measure vertical. We can leave it as, we'll change it to an integer and we'll leave it as 1. Let's see how so sales, profit ratio. So sales on one side, sales is on rows. So I'm actually going to have this defaulted to 3, which is going to correspond to our profit ratio later. And I put it on vertical because in our initial scatter plot we had profit ratio on rows. So that's what I'm going to do, is just default it to 3. What I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this. I'm going to edit this now, and we're going to do, instead of vertical, this is going to be horizontal. And this one is going to be defaulted to 1. And it's an integer, and there we go. All right. So now what I need to do is I need to bring in a secondary data set. This is where measure swapping, so, in old Tableau, we've always been able to do sheet swapping with a parameter, but now with parameter actions, we can do measure swapping. And it does take a secondary data source. It can take a secondary data source. That's the most efficient way to do it. There are other ways, but we'll go ahead and do this. So we'll take this data set that she provided for us. It's very, very simple. We'll paste it in here. I just did, as you see here. I'm going to copy this in as a data source, which is really cool. So I just copied these. They're comma delimited. And I'm just going to go down here and paste. And as you can see, it brought in my data source as a clipboard, right? Which is kind of nice. And so I'm going to go ahead and rename this real quick. We'll call this select a measure, just so we know what it is. And I actually don't need F2, so we'll go ahead and clear this for now. And I'll hide F2 because I don't really need it. All I need is the number for now. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put number on rows. Now I'm going to start building out this selection, and I'm going to put it on shape. And yeah, that looks good for now. Let's go back over here to our other data source. And now we're going to start building out some calculated fields. So what we're going to do here is, this is measure on rows. Case for our parameter selection, which is select a measure vertical. When 1, then sum of sales. When 2, then sum profit. When 3, then profit ratio. When 4, then sum quantity. End. So that is what's going to fill in my that's what's going to switch the measure. I'm going to duplicate this and do measure on columns. And since it's the same way, I'm going to do select a measure horizontal. And they're set up the exact same way. Okay. We'll call this sheet my row selector. And what we need to do now is we need to say we'll do my selective measure vertical equals number. Okay. And actually what I'll do first is go back here and do it here. So we'll say, and this is the selected button, where the selector measure vertical equals number. Now, selected button rows. There we go. All right, selected button rows. I get a new calculated field to true false. Now, when I go and I drop this onto my shape folder, or on my shape card, or my shape shelf of the marks card, as you can see, it changed, right? And it worked because we set this vertical parameter to be 3, to default to 3. All right, and so we get different shapes. So now what I can do here is I can edit my shapes. And we'll do a closed circle for false. I have a lot of shapes, so it takes a while to do that for my shapes file to open. So when it's true, will be a closed circle. Just like that. And then I can hide this. Hide. Show header. There we go. And we'll make this black. Just like that. All right. Now we'll do some more formatting. We'll remove our column, remove our row dividers here. Just like that. And so now, as you can see, these have a number associated to them. So now what we can do is we can use parameter actions on this sheet to change the value of our parameter And because we tied that parameter back into our data source, our Superstore data source, to switch the metric, that's how we'll be able to do that. So now what I need to do, I'm going to duplicate this. I'm going to duplicate this. And instead of selected button rows, it's going to be selected button columns. And this will be selected measure horizontal equals measures. And then what I'm going to do is just replace that on shape. And as you can see, it switched to number 1 because that's what we have on there. So now I just go change this back for true being a closed circle. Okay. So we've got 2 selectors here. And I think now what we can do is, let's see if we did everything. Let's see if we missed anything here. Selected measure columns, selected measure rows. So let's go ahead and just build out a very simple scatter plot here for measure on rows, measure on columns. And what was our dimension here? State, that's right, state. So we'll throw state location, state, and we'll throw that on detail. All right, so now we have profit ratio and sales. We'll fix that later. We'll fix what actually shows up here later. But now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to, just for the sake of doing this, I'm going to show these 2 parameters. and I'm going to change them to, oh, they're type in. Okay, fine. And then I'll change this to a circle. And then just to make sure this is working, I'm just going to go ahead and I'm just going to try and switch these. Yep. See, so when I switch to 2, when I switch this to 4, switch this to 1, switch this to 4. As you can see, as I'm moving through these, as I'm cycling through these, everything is working the way that I want it to work, which is really nice. So we'll go back to the way things were. 3 and 1, or excuse me, 1 and 3, just like that. So it's working the way that I want it to. Now what I just need to do is create that action. So let's go back. Let's try something really, let's see if this works. It may not. We'll see. But what I'm going to do is I have a measure on rows. Let's see. We had some sales, some profit. So if I do, yep, I think I'm going to have to do this because I'll end up, what I was thinking about was if I could do replace references, but I don't think I'm going to be able to do replace references because if I replace sum of sales with measure on columns, it's going to go through my data source and replace anywhere where it sees sum of sales, and it's going to put in measure on columns, and so it would replace measure on columns with this source, and that could break a few things. So it's okay. We'll just have to kind of go through things a little bit differently. So what we'll do here is we'll just go through here and we'll do measure on columns. So what I'm doing, what you're noticing is that I'm actually double clicking inside the pill on columns and rows as opposed to dragging this up and putting it on rows and columns. And the reason that I'm doing that is because if I were to do this, so you saw what happened. I go in here, I double click to highlight it all, and then I do columns, and it changed, right? It changed and everything works and it's great. But as you see, none of my formatting changed. I lost a little bit of my currency formatting. That's not right. That's okay. But let's go back. If I were to take my measure on columns and I were to drag and drop it to replace it, it does the same thing. Sometimes there can be some wonkiness to when you drag and drop as opposed to replacing in shelf. So that just kind of keep in mind, it's up to you, but sometimes just know that if you drag and drop a measure to replace it, you could lose some of your formatting. So just kind of keep that in mind. It's just whichever way you want to do it. All right, so this will do measure on rows. And remember, I'm not done yet because that just changed the dots. That just changed the axes. I still need to go in here and change my my 75th and 25th percentiles here. So let's go in here, and instead of sum of sales, remember that was our columns. So measure on columns. And sales 75th. We'll do columns. And then for PR, we'll do rows. And so we'll do this on, we'll just kind of walk through here, do all of this on rows. Right here. So that should work so now if I show my parameter on this sheet and I go to do this, I should see the values change, as well as I should see that blue, I should see that reference box also changing as well, because I went in there and I changed each of those. So I should see the reference lines, the median lines. I didn't do sales median, so let's go ahead and do that. And that's again columns right there. All right, so now let's do this. Look at that. Perfect. Like clockwork. And as you can see, as I'm changing this, everything is working the way that I want it to. And the reason that's doing that is because I replaced the references within all of my calculations that I already created. All right, so we'll go back to the way that it started. And now I just need to go in here, and these are the other calculations that I created. B profit ratio. So I need to go in here. I just need to kind of work my way backwards to get this. So profit ratio was on rows. And B sales was, sum of sales was actually on columns. There we go. I get a, oh, because I got an extra paren there. All right, close that up. Okay, that should be good. Let's, now what we'll do, Tableau's got to refresh everything. Now I'm going to go in here and I'll show the parameter here, just to make sure everything's working. We'll do 2. That changed. That changed here. And 4. And that changed there. Good deal. Okay. Now, what I need to do is I need to go in here and let's go back to the way it was. All right, let's go back here. We'll edit this. And I'm getting some, was it 1, 3? Yeah, that's what it was. Okay. So as you can see here, I've got some custom formatting here that we'll need to clean up a little bit if we choose to do that. But for now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back, and I think I'm ready to start building out the rest of the user UI. So what we're going to do is we're going to drag a horizontal container out into the view. And it's a floating object. So when you're building a dashboard, if you want to switch between floating and tiled, there's a couple ways to do it. I always do tiled except when I need to. So I always leave that here, because if I switch that, I will not remember to switch it back. So I always leave it untiled, and if I need to float an object out, I'll just hold down the shift key, and that will allow me to float something out on the dashboard. So I'm going to float I want to float a horizontal out. And what I'm going to do now is, this is not row selector. I need to be I need to be precise. This is column selector. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is go over here. And actually what I can do is I can actually give this a name. This is actually going to be my rows is, oh, yep, lost it. There it is. All right. Don't you love how if you work on multiple monitors in Tableau and you open a calculation window, you open a parameter window, you open any of these dialog boxes, and it's kind of like window display roulette. You never know where your windows are going to show up. Even though I know that I would love it if it would just open up on the same window display that my Tableau's on, but it never does for me. So that's weird. All right, so we're going to call this. So this is our rows selector, and rows is the y-axis. So we'll do y. We'll center that. We'll put a little bold on there. Maybe make it a little bit bigger. Maybe 18 looks good. And we'll set this to entire view. We'll do Tableau medium, 18, call it X. There's that, make this entire view. So now what I'll do is I will put my, let's see how she's got it here. She's got, if we look at this, nope, all right. X and then Y, okay. So we'll put that in there, X and then Y. And then as you see, we had a middle name, right? And so this is going to be, we'll go ahead and clear this sheet. And what we'll do is we'll go back over here. And we're going to go ahead and create a calculated field for case number when 1, then text sales. When 2, then profit. When 3, then profit ratio. When 4, then quantity. And we'll call this measure title. Okay, so we'll put measure on there. We'll also put measure title on text, and then we will hide our row header. Make this entire view. Do some more formatting. We will get rid of our column or our row dividers, get rid of our banding, make these centered, make them bigger. And I've lost, there it is. See, it came all the way over here. It came onto my other monitor, just like I told you it would. We'll make this bigger. We'll make it match our titles on the other side. So we'll make those 18. We'll make them medium, Tableau medium. See what that looks like. And it seems to be sorted strangely. Oh, there it is. Manual. Sales, profit ratio, quantity. There we go. Now we'll go back here. And we'll put sheet 6 right in the middle. We'll give it this a name. We'll say select measure. There we go. I'm going to make this whole background white so that it really shows, it really kind of pops off. All right. So now what we need to do is, now that we can confirm that this is working, we will create our dashboard actions. We need to create two additional dashboard actions. Change parameter. This is change rows. Again, be as descriptive as you can. Change rows, which is the Y. So what I'm going to do is that is the row selector. Nope, that used to be a thing you could do, but it's not anymore. Okay. Yep. So to do that, you can press the space bar if you click and highlight. If you click to highlight a sheet, you can use the space bar to select and deselect. All right, row selector. That is the measure, or that is the sheet that I want this parameter action to initiate on. Target parameter is the vertical. And I want it to change the number. And because it's an integer field, Tableau thinks I want to aggregate it, but I don't. And then when clearing the selection, just leave it. Just leave it as is. And now we'll just do the exact same thing, but change it to columns. There's another quick thing. If you're ever creating actions and you want to multi-select sheets, if you click the title of it and then hold down the Shift key and click your scroll through and then click to the rest and then click the space bar, it will deselect them all at the same time, which is very, very handy if you have a lot of sheets on your dashboard. So the column selector, we will target the select to measure horizontal. Source field, we want to do the number. We don't want an aggregation, and we'll keep the current value if it's deselected. All right. If I've done everything correctly, this should work. Let's see. So I've got sales, profit ratio. Boom. I saw movement. There we go. All right, let's widen this a little bit. Maybe we'll take it up here just to make it. We'll move it over a little bit, and now it's just a matter of placement, right? But what I need to do is edit this title, maybe make it a little bit smaller so that it's all on one line. Yeah, that's a little too big here, too small there. Nope, still needs to be more. Okay, we'll go to, what does 11 look like? Nope, how about 10? It's better. But now everything's on the right side. Potentially I could make all of this stuff smaller. But what if we do medium and then we center that? Maybe underline it. There we go. Yep, that looks good. Actually, you know what? I do need to go in here and make this text a little bit smaller because profit ratio is not coming all the way through. So we'll go back. We'll make this 15. Maybe something like that. We'll go in. We'll go back. Again, this is where we just kind of play with it, right? So we'll do fit width. Entire view. In fact, we could probably even make this not that. We'll make this one. We'll make this width. Whoa. What does 100 look like? That looks pretty good. So we'll make this one 102. And now we can probably bump the size of this back up. Now that we've given it more. There we go. That looks good. All right. Now the last thing we need to do is add a button. Add a show hide button. And then we'll just put that guy maybe right there. Close it up. That looks good. Get rid of our legend container. There we go. Move that over here. And now whenever we activate it, we get that. I do think this needs a border for sure, so we'll go ahead and add a black border. There we go. And we'll bring it back. Put it right there. There we go. Yeah, that looked good. All right, so let's put this in full screen mode so that I don't have to hold Alt key to have my buttons. So there we go. So we'll go back to sales. That changes that. Change that to profit ratio. There we go. Close that. And now we're good to go. So there you have it. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. We learned how to use a secondary data source as the basis for parameters, measure swapping. We talked about how to replace everything. We talked about the possibility of replace references, but that wouldn't work. So we just did that, and then we learned how to format custom buttons. So you can have a lot of fun with this. There's a lot of different. I know the Flurlage twins have a bunch of custom button templates that you guys, that the community can use. So go check that out. Play with buttons. It kind of opens up a whole new UI interface for us. So it's pretty exciting. So thanks so much. Hopefully that wasn't too bad, and you've enjoyed this series. Who knows? Who knows if we'll do it again or when? I think it's a matter of when, not if. We'll probably do it again, but we'll go back to our normally scheduled, fun, different challenges next week. I think Luke is up next week, so that's what we're gonna do. So be right back here, same bat time, same bat day. Thursdays at 12:15 Central Time. And thanks so much. We'll talk to you soon. Go forth and viz.